Are you of Japanese or American descent?
Japanese. Here, excuse me. I am Japanese American.
Okay. How old were you prior to Executive Order 906?
13 years old.
Was there discrimination before Pearl Harbor towards Japanese Americans?
Not to me. And like in school and everything, we got along fine.
So on the streets and stuff, when you were walking, no one said anything to you? Okay. Where did you live?
I lived in Southgate, California. And we had a farm. And we were mainly strawberry growers. And we had 17 acres.
You had any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I have 3 brothers and 4 sisters.
How was life on the farm?
I mean, for me, I went to school and I come home and they needed help. I used to go out to the farm and help whatever I could. Then we built a store. No, that's after the war, but it was farming and we used to go pick whatever we had to, strawberries or we had vegetables and so I did help out when I could.
So would you say you were financially secure?
Yes.
Okay. What was your reaction to Japan bombing Pearl Harbor?
I think that day I was doing some ironing with my sister. We had 2 ironing boards, and we were ironing, and we heard it over the radio, and we couldn't believe it, and says, gee, how it's going to affect us. We didn't know what was going to happen next. Well, we went to school as usual, but some people, I guess, were kind of, stayed away from us. And, but then us girls stuck together after, that happened, but we were kind of, they'll eye us and say, gee, we're Japanese, but we're not Japanese. We're really American citizens, just like they are. But they discriminated us. But, that's how people felt. We couldn't do anything about it.
So people saw you differently after Pearl Harbor than before?
Yes.
Okay. And how did they notify you about Executive Order 9066?
I really don't remember when we got the order, but I was still young, so, I just let the family take care of it. And then my brother says, they ordered that we have to evacuate eventually. But we did. My oldest brother said, well, we're going to go to Paulier, which is in Central California, to get away from going to camp. And we all kind of rejected, but my mother and father says, well, if that's what, we should do, we go. So we went to Paulier until we were there from March until August. And then after that, we were sent to camp in August. And that's where I graduated 8th grade.
Okay. How did you react to the executive order?
Well, they ordered us to go, so what can you do?
So you were just kind of forced to
do it?
Yeah,
we were forced to go, so we said, well, a lot of people went to Colorado. They didn't have to go camp, but we decided we might as well go to camp. There's too many of us,
What was more detrimental to you? Your government not trusting you or having to be forced to go to camp?
Well, I think it's kind of being forced to be put into those camps. And, we're American citizens, and I thought we were kind of treated badly. But there's nothing you could do when the government says go, you got to go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you go with your family on the ride to camp or by yourself?
No, I went with the family.
Okay. And
before my father was picked up by the FBI right after the war started, and he was in Tahunga, and then we heard that he was going to be released, but they didn't release him until we got into camp, so they don't have to, you know, send him to Polyard and go to camp from there. They just waited until we got in camp, then he came.
Did you know where you were going?
No.
So,
All we know we was going to Arizona, but we didn't know where.
So they just rounded you up and took you on the
Mm-hmm.
train ride?
We had to go to a certain place, and then they took us on these. It was pretty old train. I remember it seemed like it was just open, and when we in the evening when we passed L.A., I remember we had to all pull the shades down, and I said, why do we have to do that? I says, well, we don't want the people to see. So my sister and I, we pick up the shade and we look and see, we're someplace, I don't know where, but it was so hot that they gave us salt pills on the train to drink, and until we got to the Arizona.
What were you thinking while you were on the ride to camp?
On the train?
Yeah.
He says, well, so where are we going? You know, what's our destination? And if you figure, what kind of place is it going to be? And when we got there, it was hot.
Did the military treat you, and like, how did they treat you in rounding you up and while on the
No,
train?
they were, I mean, you know, they didn't mistreat us. They just told us to go to a certain place and we'll just go.
Were you separated from your family once you got to the camp?
No, we were always together. And there's two camps. There was Camp 1 and Camp 2. And we were in Camp 1, and 8 of us, we were in one barrack. And so they wanted my brother to move to the hospital in Camp 2. So we said, okay, providing you give us 2 rooms. So there was 4 rooms in one barrack, and the 2 outer rooms are bigger, and then the 2 middle ones are smaller. So we got 2 middle ones for the 8 of us.
While you were on the train, were there any significant experiences that you recall?
No, just that it was hot.
Okay.
There's no other experience. It was hot.
When you first arrived at the camp, how did it look?
Deserted.
So
It was. We thought, wow, what kind of place this is? I think we're of all the 10 camps. Our camp is the only one that had white barracks, and we noticed after maybe about a year, everybody started wearing glasses. You know, the reflection from the sun, and but it was, you know, and everything is. There's. It was blocks. There's, I think, 12 barracks or 14 barracks, I'm not sure. And then one mess hall and one latrine, you know, men and women. And washing, you can wash clothes. There was just one for the whole 12 barracks. And it was not, you know, it's a community thing, so it's not private. So we hated that. But otherwise, you know, you just had to make the best of it.
you didn't know where you were going, but was it better or worse than you expected it to be?
Well, it was hot, and we have sandstorms come up all of a sudden, and the barracks are not completely sealed, so they'll come up from the floor, or and you have sand all over, dust. But otherwise, I thought, gee, you know, this is where we're going to live for a while, and we have to just make the best of what, you know, was there.
So the housing didn't, like, provide any cover from the sand that came in?
Only thing we got, well, the beds and like that, and we had a heater. That was about it.
Was it hard for you to settle in a new place?
Yeah, kind of. At first, it's being in a community like that, and when you know, we never experienced it, so it was kind of odd. It's just, your neighbors, you can hear in fact, you could hear the neighbors talking, and it was kind of bad. But then, yet, you know, like you do with what you got, they give you, and and to make the best of it.
How was the food at camp?
What was that?
The food at camp.
The food? Well, like I said, we got curry stew for I don't know how many days in a row, but breakfast and lunch, and it was okay. I mean, we didn't have to prepare it or anything, but I worked in the mess hall. I worked as a dishwasher, and I had a part-time job while I was going to school. So the lady that took care of us, she was very strict. She was very particular how her dishcloths were. She boiled them after every meal, and then she'll say, "Okay, you better hurry up." And there was another guy, and I hurry up and go. You better go, or you're gonna be late for your class. And she's very good about that. And food-wise, of course, we got a little extra if you work there. Says, if there's not ketchup on the menu, we asked the chief. I said, "Oh, can we have ketchup?" "Yeah, sure, you can have ketchup." Some of the little things that we used to get that they didn't give at the regular meal.
So did you say you had enough food to eat?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. How was the schooling at camp?
School?
Yeah.
School is not, like I was saying, it wasn't like a regular school because they hired these retired people and not so good of teachers. And so I myself struggled at school, because, I don't know, maybe it's the way they were teaching, but I never did care for school. But we had to go to school, so we went. And we had to walk, about a mile to school.
What did you do for fun at the camps?
But we used to play volleyball, and I played all sports. And within the block, we used to have a volleyball court, and we used to play, mixed volleyball teams, and we used to compete against other blocks nearby. So I was involved in sports a lot, which I think in ping pong, we had a barrack just for ping pong, and so I played all the sports, and whatever they had in the block, I used to play. But in school, I did all the sports.
How did people try to cope with the camps? Did they try to work as a community together to make the situation the best as possible?
Yeah, we used to have a block manager, they called him. And I worked as an assistant because they appointed my dad as block manager. So I used to go to meetings if they had meetings because he didn't understand English. And as long as I think the block got along pretty good, everybody. To my opinion, I think it was okay. You meet them and you associate with them. If say they're out of high school and they'll talk to you and then how are you doing at school, or what. So, and another thing too, people used to knit a lot. So I learned how to knit also in camp.
How long were you at the camp for?
I was there from, let's see, I think it was 1942 in August until I think it disbanded in August of 1945. And I was there with all my siblings went out of camp. When my one brother volunteered in for the army, and then the others all went out, and then I was left with my parents. And so my parents and I were the last ones. But before we left camp, I brought my father to California to look at our property and to make sure things were okay. And then the neighbor across the street, she was very good. She used to kind of watch over the property for us. But we had a real estate guy take care of it. But when these people first moved in, one was Filipino, I think the other one was Filipino too. The second people that rented the place. This one guy, he was so mad because I guess he must have lost some siblings